I have always struggled to rotate my shoulders when doing tricks. And in my quest to relearn my frontside and backside 180s, along with just relearning how to use my upper body in general, I've discovered something that I really should have known all along. There are so many tricks in skateboarding that rotate, and every single one of those trick tips includes someone telling you to rotate your shoulders. And I know this is 100% correct, but the problem for me became recently, exactly how was I supposed to rotate my shoulders? Because I have countless videos of me trying to do frontside and backside 180s where I'm just throwing my shoulders around and mostly facing two problems, which is one, just a weak rotation, or two, losing balance because I try to swing my shoulders around and I just end up throwing them off my center axis. Well, you might have seen one of my videos recently where I've been trying to relearn my ollies, and part of that was learning how to throw my arms back when I jump up to kind of control the jump, control my upper body, give myself some extra lift into the air, and just work on a kind of clean style of jumping, at least in my opinion. And while trying to see if there was any part of that technique that I could apply to the frontside and backside 180s, I did discover a few things. But let's break this video up into two parts, starting with the main change, which was my hands. I've been so focused on this idea that I need to lead tricks with my shoulders that I completely forgot and ignored the fact that I had arms and hands that I could use in combination with my shoulders, which is kind of funny, right? But remember, I was jumping by throwing my arms back, like this. And the moment I started trying to add a rotation to that, I realized that my hands actually picked up a lot of momentum, and they were really helping me drive the rotation around. So instead of being trapped in this idea that I have to do these tricks with my shoulders, I started thinking, well, maybe I could actually lead with my arms, lead with my hands, let my hand pick up that momentum, and then try to assist it with my shoulders instead. So lead with the hand, assist with the shoulder. Kind of seems to be working. Especially I'm staying really nice in place, and that is super important because what I was doing before was a lot like this, where I would try to force my shoulder somewhere and you jump into that direction, or not even jump, I can jump straight up, but if I'm throwing my shoulder, if I'm really trying to whip my shoulder to the side in that mindset of lead with the shoulders, then it's really easy to just drag myself away from where I want to be. And the mindset shift of involving my hands helped me to throw more powerful, controlled rotations. I could better rotate in the center by kind of allowing my body to be the center axis as it should be, and then letting my hands rotate around that center. You can do that with your shoulders. I just find it to be a lot more difficult. Perhaps because the shoulders are so close to that center axis you want to create over top of the board. I'm going to try to use just my shoulders. I totally can, but it's just harder for me. And I also do think it's a little bit of that upward motion that kind of helps me stay up and over the axis instead of like pulling myself away from it, which is what I was doing with my shoulders. And I do think it's easy to do that if you just throw straight out. Let's hope no one comes and catches me doing this because I look really weird. So we have that, right? You could throw myself to the other side or up to help keep myself in the center. This framing of the jump, this understanding of the jump has just helped me a lot. And I've really found a good mind-body connection doing this. So I do think there's multiple layers as to why this is working so well for me. And this hasn't been just helpful for frontside and backside 180s. It definitely has. I still have a long ways to go since I'm relearning this technique right now. I'm getting better at it. I'm getting stronger inside of the technique, but it also has helped me for other tricks. The other day, I got that really, really nice fakie backside big spin, and that was all thanks to this. I was really focused on trying to get a nice, strong, clean rotation led with my hand, and the results were pretty nice. I was really excited about that. And now hopefully I've explained why I'm now operating in this new frame. Let's talk about part 2, which gets into the details. And once I started thinking about this, I realized something. And that was that no matter what I did, I'm regular footed, and my left shoulder, my left hand, is over my front foot. Now, whether I tried to rotate front side or back side, I always led that rotation with my front shoulder, no matter what I was doing. However, when kind of rethinking about it, I wondered if that was the best way to do it. And so I started practicing leading frontside rotations with my front shoulder, and then leading backside rotations with my back shoulder. And they were both a lot more comfortable. And it's very possible that this is just a me problem, but I did want to share it just in case it actually helps somebody else, because starting to lead, particularly the backside rotations with my back shoulder, my back hand, was incredibly helpful. I don't know why I never thought of that before. This next tip I do think is pretty obvious for skaters, we've heard it before, but to actually practice these jumps with a line. It makes a huge difference to have something to aim for, and then also to have something as a guide so that you know when you're jumping off of it. If I'm jumping over here, I know something's wrong. And then of course you can start to build up on it, start trying to jump maybe off of one foot. Maybe you want to try to bring your legs up higher. Or maybe you want to really focus on how your favorite pro does these tricks. And once you get to 90, do that hard turn back, right? Which does lead us to the final part of the details, which is timing. I think that timing is the place where I am currently struggling the most, and it has a lot to do with a few observations I've made recently. The first observation I actually made quite a while ago, and that is that my favorite skaters are skaters who I think have a nice frontside or backside 180. When they pop their 180 tricks, they pop straight down, and the board pops straight up before they ever start the rotation. So it'll pop straight, come up, and as they're pushing the nose, then they start to make the rotations. When I pop a frontside or backside 180, I will pop up at an angle like this and then continue to level out the board, or will try. And it makes a lot of sense that because I pop out to such an angle, I'm also jumping really far to the left and right of my skateboard, as opposed to if I could pop straight down and really get that nice whip, I could stay more centered over the skateboard, centered over where I started, right? If you come up, twist, and come back down, as opposed to popping at an angle and then pulling in that direction to land to the side of your skateboard. So really, unlearning that has been incredibly difficult, and it's still super hard to get the hang of. I cannot do it still. I still have small turns, but they're not as bad, because they used to be really, really bad, but I'm working really hard to pause after I do that pop, to really hold the pop first and then try to level, but it's super difficult. The second thing I noticed was where these skaters' shoulders were when they popped the board, and it was kind of along the same lines. When they were popping their skateboards, their shoulders were still relatively in line with it. Might be a little bit open or, a little bit closed, but they were still pretty close to being parallel to the skateboard. Whereas when I was popping my frontside and backside 180s, my shoulders were already at 90 and the board was turned. So I kind of see right there two very potential problems. I noticed that a lot of skaters will come out to 90 while they level out the trick, and then they kind of use this back and forth momentum where they come back and then they push back to keep their shoulders facing forward almost. So they come up, or if they're doing a backside 180, their shoulders kind of remain back. So relearning my 180s has become very much about the skill I mentioned in the first two parts, and this timing. How do I pop the board straight up and get a nice hard rotation to 90 degrees so that I can push the board forward? When I practice, I have been kind of winding up to like tap my opposite toe, one to help me squat deeper, tap the opposite toe, and then come up, tap the opposite toe, and come up, trying to force myself to get that rotation. And so I've just been kind of saying this mantra, which is like wind up, pop, rotate, push. And then I've just been practicing. They're all just micro adjustments, working on one thing a little bit at a time, trying to get better. It's one thing I've been trying too, right? Just to try to get the swing. Nothing else. And I'll also say that it's so easy to overthink all of this that it's really easy to forget all the things you said you wanted to try. So how I try to approach that is just like one thing at a time. This time, let's focus on getting this arm back. This time, let's focus on getting the legs up. Just break it down and try to learn one little thing. Try to focus on that thing, and eventually it'll be a lot easier to put those things together like a little puzzle. Not bad, right? I think it's also really important to keep in mind that when we're watching these tutorials, we are being taught how to do these tricks from people who have been skating for like 20 years. It's actually just given me very unrealistic expectations of what the trick should look like and how far I am from that trick. Like, these things just take time, and sometimes being taught by somebody who's so good at them sets up a slight unrealistic expectation of what my trick should look like as well, because it's just going to take a lot of time and effort and practice to get from where I am now to where I want to be, to where my favorite skater is, or where the person who taught me is. So do keep that in mind. I try to remind myself of that. Not too bad, right? At least it feels... I won't know what it looked like until I see the footage, but that felt so good, and it really didn't feel like I was jumping way to the side, although I'm sure I moved a little bit back. And that is in part because you will still see that while I'm trying to stay over, I do lean back, and wherever my head is, that tends to be where the body rotates around. How did that look? I could feel myself that time. I did feel myself pull back. But that's okay, right? We're still getting better. I'm still miles better than I was even 4 months ago. Okay, and just to be fair to you and myself, let's try some backside 180s because they're not going to go as well. I definitely had a better head start with the frontside 180. I had a better foundation to fix and to tweak. With the backside 180, I don't really have that. So I am just trying to get a rather centered bad spin and revert to the end. Or even like stop and revert, just full 180. And at this point, I'm not trying to level it out. I'm just trying to get a swing, really. That's it. Like that. That was good. To me, that was a good attempt. Even if it was just kind of like dragging on the ground, totally fine with it. That was good. I was happy with that. That's where I want to be. Yeah. Oh, that was not bad. Wasn't quite what I was expecting, but I imagine I'm still doing those slightly angled ollies for both of them. However, I do think they're better than they were. fact, let's try that. Let's try to pause. Right. Hey, that actually wasn't too bad. Let's try that again. I would be satisfied with that. It's a start and I'll take it. I really hope you took something away from this, even if you'd have to tweak it and change it and make it your own. I do think that's always the best way to go anyways. To take whatever technique you're using and make it yours for the tricks that you're doing and your fitness level and all of those things. And that's really it. I hope you got something out of this video and I hope you're having a really good day.